So I haven't been able to express myself the way I want to for a little over 4 weeks, and because of that I feel sick. I mean, I only have one person, it seems, that watches these videos. I actually have two, but one of them is myself, and maybe you haven't even noticed, and the future will probably be out of timeline context to care, but I haven't made a video in over 4 weeks. And because of that I feel sick, as well as Mr. Kigo would say with his writing. Sadly I have been distracted, and because of that a little confused. All life can do to an individuality is to make them distracted and confused so they can't get to know themselves. Life forced me to do a bunch of nonsense when all I want to do is this. Of course, when I say life, I mean the system. The system is life as we know it. Real life is what we discover it to be away from the system, and it's nonsense. Probably. How would I know? Is it life or the system of it? Is it this same thing? And so on. But I guess, therefore, fate has always been truly important to help dealing with all of this rationality nonsense, which you are sometimes forced to think and do. But even so, life has distracted me and therefore made me a little confused. Of course, I still have this overall thought result of what I want to do with making these videos, and of course what we talked about in the last one, and therefore how we should continue. So in the last video we talked a little about this connection between Hans Christian Andersen and Mr. Kegel, and for that matter I will continue talking about this for a little bit in this video as well. But before we move on, who are you, my only viewer? Show yourself, write a comment, I dare you. This fairy tale of him, the tinderbox from 1835, is not the first fairy tale of him, but is included in his first publicity of stories like this. From his notebooks, fairy tales told for kids, and ended up writing around 200 of these kind of stories. Amongst the most popular ones, The Little Mermaid and The Ugly Duckling. In a direct matter, this fairy tale is about a soldier returning home from war. He then meets an unpleasant witch that shows him and tells him about this large tree, which is hollow inside. Deep inside of this, on the outside hollow tree, there lies a lot of money within 3 doors. The keys already present in the doors. There is also behind these doors 3 different kinds of dogs sitting on the chest with 3 different kinds of wealth. But before you get there, there is a big hallway, which is truly bright, because over 100 lamps are burning. So the soldier now has the opportunity to get a lot of wealth provided by this unpleasant looking witch, but does she not want anything in return? She do. The soldier needs to take with him an old tinderbox that her grandmother forgot the last time she was there. Within the first door, the dog has eyes as big as teacups, and within the second door, the dog has eyes as big as a mill wheel, and within the third door, the dog has eyes as big as the round tower, which truly disgusts the soldier. He now gets a rope something like this around his waist and is ready to go down this hollow tree. But there is one thing he is missing, the witch's blue checkered scarf for the dogs to sit on, so they will leave the soldier alone, and then for him to grab all the money that he wants. And that is exactly what he's doing. Within the first door, he takes all the copper that he can. Then he swapped it all for silver within the second door, and do the same with gold within the third door. He then asked the old witch to take him up from there, but he forgot one truly important thing to do, the old tinderbox for the witch. So he goes down there again, takes the tinderbox and gets up to where he started again, now with all of this money. He then asks the witch why it is that she only wants this old tinderbox. She refused to answer, and he therefore cut off her head, took her blue checkered scarf and put all his money in there, took the old tinderbox as well, and walked to the city. The city full of life, where he now was a wealthy man, got a lot of friends because of that, gave money to the poor because he could remember how that felt like, and he wanted to see the princess, which was truly hard to get to meet, but he kept dreaming. But sadly no money was coming his way, and before he knew of it, all the money was gone, and all of his friends too. He had to move away into more reasonable living standards condition, all up on the very top of the apartment, under the roof, where servants would stay back in the days, and therefore of course he would lose all of his friends, as it says in the text, because no one would walk up all of these stairs. So he sits there all alone at dark night and wants some light. He uses the tinderbox to make fire onto a candle of some kind, and suddenly the dog kicks in, and the dog from the first door, with eyes as big as teacups, comes to serve him and his wishes, and he wants some more money. Did he hit it one time, the dog from the first door would come, as we already know, with copper. Did he hit it twice, the dog from the second door would come and bring along with it silver, which you had already figured out, yes, I know. And did he hit it three times, the dog from the third door would come and bring along with it gold. This would of course make the soldier happy again, if he was even sad. I mean, he didn't change, only his condition to live exist. But at least now, with all of this money and because of his tinderbox to be magical, he would leave his apartment, live like a wealthy man again, and get all of his friends back. But what about this lovely princess? He really wanted to see her, and now he had his magical old tinderbox. So he makes some sparks, some fire, and the dog within the first door, with eyes as big as teacups, comes to his service. And he, even though it was in the middle of the night, really wanted to see her just for a little moment. The dog therefore was quickly out the door and brought the princess to the soldier. The princess was still sleeping and was laying on the dog's back, and the soldier gave her a kiss, and the dog then was running back with her, brought her back to her castle made out of copper. When the morning came, the princess told the king and the queen, over a cup of tea, about this weird dream that she had about this dog and the soldier. Because of that, one of the old ladies of the court should look after the princess the next night to see what was really going on. And it happened again. The soldier was in such a need to see this lovely princess again, so the very next night came the dog and took her, running back to the soldier with the princess. But the old lady of the court saw it all and ran after the dog as fast as the dog. She found out which house the princess and the dog went into, and therefore put a big cross on the gate. She then went home, and the dog later came back with the princess. But the soldier found out about this and therefore put a cross on all the gates in the town, so they would never be able to find him. And it worked. In the early morning they were looking for the cross, but it was everywhere to be found, on every gateway in the town, which made them very confused. But the queen then got a good idea, so they would be able to catch him. She sewed together a little bag out of silk, filled it with buckwheat groats, put it on the back of the princess, then made a little hole for it to sprinkle all the way to where the princess would be taken to. And this also worked. The dog would take the princess at night again, didn't feel anything sprinkle, from the castle to the soldier's window, and therefore in the morning the soldier was captured and taken to prison the Slamo. There he was, it was boring and dark in there, and tomorrow they said he would be hanged. Luckily for him, he saw a shoemaker's boy in the chaos of people leaving the town to see him get hanged. He offered him some money if he would bring him his magic old tinderbox. And he really wanted this money, so he went to get it. The time has now come for him to be hanged. A lot of people was there to watch, along with the king and the queen. They were ready to put the rope around his neck, but then he asked for one final wish, to smoke a pipe with tobacco, which he was allowed to. The soldier then took his old tinderbox, made sparks, fire. 1, 2, 3, all the dogs would show up. The dog from the first door with eyes as big as teacups, the dog from the second door with eyes as big as a mill wheel, the dog from the third door with eyes as big as the round tower. And the soldier was truly in need of their help, asked them to help him from getting hanged, which they did. They grabbed and threw all the people around, including the king and the queen. The soldiers there got really scared, and the people started to shout that the soldier should be king and have this lovely princess, which he got. The princess became queen, which she liked. They held a wedding, and all the 3 dogs would sit with them at the table, and they would make big eyes. So how should we understand this fairy tale? Only the kid will know truly. So who am I to make my interpretations on this when the kid don't care about it, won't need it? Well, that's a good question, and the kids won't answer. For them there is no question, but sadly they won't stay kids forever. So therefore I will ask this question and answer it myself. So when the kids are no longer kids, I will try and bring them back by answering my question by questioning. In the very beginning of this fairy tale we hear about this soldier that has been in war and he is still marching, and what does that mean? That he can't seem to let go? The witch that he meets is unpleasant. War is truly unpleasant as well, but who thinks this witch is unpleasant? The soldier only calls her old. The tree is big but hollow inside. Perception of oneself and inner personality is emptiness, because you haven't been searching for yourself within yourself. This is now what the soldier does, and he needs to go search for himself deep down in this tree to the very root of his existence. When he arrives there, he is the one in centrum, all the lamps are burning, so it's truly bright, and he is the one that has to walk this big hallway. Then he arrives to the 3 doors, the keys which are already there for it to open. Everyone has these opportunities to discover themselves, but to do so, it might not be your own choice, because life's possibility can push you into this direction. But it is to open the doors, and it is also your choice to what you are going to do with the treasure there, because he didn't have to, and so on. So what should we think of the dog's eyes? The eyes gets bigger for each door that he goes in, and so does the reward of what he can get. And what does this mean? That the more he chooses himself, the greater the reward, because in the big eyes of the dogs, he sees himself, so he is well aware of the situation that he put himself in, and he can therefore reflect on his choice to act. But why does it feel like that the dogs at the end of the story, at the wedding, was looking a little funny at the soldier? Is the soldier really impressed by himself, or how should we understand this? Before the soldier goes down this hollow tree, he gets a rope of some kind around his waist, and the adventure begins. When he's about to die, you could say the adventure is about to end. He then gets a rope around his neck instead. If you want to take this thought a little further, you could say that he does not lose touch with reality when he goes down this tree to explore himself, because what he finds, of course, needs to be taken back into reality with actions, also not only thoughts, that might make him lose touch with reality, and therefore to fade away eventually. The rope assures that holding on to him, and I think it was Carl Jung that made an interpretation of Nietzsche's madness, and also spoke about this of how to fade away when the thoughts gets too distant from reality. And of course this could also be a metaphor of that, but in a more indirect manner. The connection between Mr. Kierkegaard and Hans Christian Andersen is now present, not directly, but indirectly it comes very much to show. But I will make a direct example from the text that might be a little jump on fate, but it's surely not a lot if it's even there. So when he walks within the second door, he says that the dog shouldn't look at him too much because its eyes could hurt. In Mr. Kierkegaard's work, the concept of anxiety, where we get told that angst is a part of the human existence, has something to do with your freedom and this overwhelming feeling of possibilities. The eyes, which could be the soul, is getting hurt from this freedom of yours and these possibilities. And in a more direct and little way, this is exactly what happens with your eyes when they do not have a place to rest. Then your vision gets blurry and you therefore feel dizzy. The same with angst, dizziness for the soul, you could say. So could there be a connection here with Mr. Kierkegaard and Hans Christian Andersen? Yes, definitely. The bigger the eyes of the dogs, the more the soldier gets to know himself, the bigger the possibility and the bigger the reward. But the eyes might start to hurt, which is very unpleasant. Especially like the witch, and indirectly all of the dogs, and directly in the text the third dog. We now get told that he grabs so much money that he can barely walk, too much gold, which might in the end tear his soul apart, but he still remembers how it feels not to be wealthy, and therefore he gives to the poor. He forgets to bring this unpleasant witch her old tinderbox and ends up cutting off her head, because she wouldn't tell him why she wanted only this old tinderbox, and what should we think of this? So he becomes a wealthy man, it seems, and because of that he gains a lot of confidence. Now he wants to see the king's daughter, the princess, but his actions on life's possibilities led him there, so would the money really change that? Because of this he also gets a lot of friends, but sadly it seems they only want to be his friend because of him being wealthy. I mean, when he lost this wealth, he lost all of his friends as well, and they all came back again when he got wealthy again. And they did not want to walk up all of these stairs. They can't seem to manage real life, and the slightest burden is too much. They want to feel good and comfort all the time, and so on. The essence of Hans Christian Andersen's authorship, you could say at least some essence of it, that he would really poke to the upper class, and one of his other famous fairy tales would be The Princess and the Pea, where even though all of these mattresses, the princess could still feel this pea, because just the slightest burden was too much for her to bear. And if you make other references to other people throughout history, and here I'm gonna take a little leap of faith because I can't remember their names, but there were some poets in France that also would be very much against this. In their posts, you could read that they, they would write that they would just drink their wine all the time, and whenever there was occasion for it, they would drink and they would party, so they could forget about real life and just to feel comfort in this illusion all the time. But it very much take you away from real life and so on, which definitely also is what Hans Christian Andersen is, because he was a man that worked himself up. He was not born wealthy, so he worked up through the system his whole life. So he would definitely poke to these kind of people, and people after him as well has done the same. And what else is there to say? Yeah, also Nietzsche, that would later say that you have to take this burden upon you, so you will grow stronger within yourself. And then, of course, Karl Marx, Freud, and Carl Jung would say that when life gets too hard for you to grasp, people tend to fade away to this illusion of better times. Everything is going to be alright, because right now it's not a good time. So it's really just a survival mechanism for your mind and your soul, that you make up this dream, illusion, and fantasy. So real life would gets easier for you to live and grasp, because right now in the moment is very miserable for you. So one of the French poets that I was talking about, I found out his name is Charles Baudelaire, and his work in Vivus, something to be translated into English to get drunk. So it's that work that I was thinking about, but there's a few more poets that I can remember, but he's one of them. He wants to see the princess, but this lovely princess is difficult to get to see, and the soldier says something like this, that why is it that you can't see this lovely princess, and she is so lovely, but what will that help if she's just inside this big castle, and so on. Which reminds me of this poem by Federico Garcia Lorca called Song of the Rider, as we talked about in Bookreview 3, that even though he knows all the roadways, he will never get to Cordoba. A life's journey with unattainable goals towards our death, but the soldier does get to see this lovely princess, so it's not all just an illusion. He now kisses the princess while she was sleeping because he was a real soldier. And how should we understand this? I think my best guess would be that now that we know that he is poking to a lot of people, and in this case is probably also letting the soldiers know of what he really thinks of them in a sarcasm way. Now we take a little jump in the story to where he will get hanged, because he is a sinner, but before this he will have his innocent wish fulfilled. In Mr. Kierkegaard's work, The Concept of Anxiety, you will lose your innocence and become guilty by your free will with your actions that you take in life. And the soldier has been doing this a lot here in the story, acting a certain way against this princess, which is not allowed, and so on. But for him, you could say it was. But how should we understand this innocent wish of his, according to him already being seen as a sinner? That's a lot more tricky to answer, that this wish is an innocent one, and so on. But surely the kids will have no trouble to answer this. So the soldier ends up being king and got this lovely princess. His actions amazed the people and also scared the soldiers. If this soldier can do all of this just by possibilities in life, which you take action on, and a little bit of magic and luck as well, which in Mr. Kierkegaard's case you could say would be fate, and which is probably also present here. So if the soldier can do it, you can do it too. Overall, of course, there is many understandings of this fairy tale, but overall there might be at least 3 of those. One is Hans Christian Andersen making fun of and poking the upper class, and therefore the dogs only might also represent those, at least at the very end of the story, at the beginning, where all the dogs would make big eyes. Second is to seek answers within yourself, to get to know yourself, even though it might hurt, and for it to be unpleasant. And 3, which is of course the mysteries in this fairy tale, which is for the kids to be answered. You could say that this is how the tradition looks at this fairy tale, the tradition I put upon this fairy tale, but Hans Christian Andersen was a more fulfilled individual, more than Mr. Kierkegaard would have said, because how would he know he is still living, and how does it then seems that he is absolute in his thoughts? But he was very much absolute in his thoughts, which might only have stayed in these stars. With Mr. Kierkegaard it came more directly to be seen in his lived life. So now that Hans Christian Andersen was a truly fulfilled individual, how should we look at this fairy tale? And then you will say the more fulfilled, the better the understanding. Well, the more fulfilled individuality, it harder it gets to understand. With new eyes, the story should be understood by the kids that stands outside of the tradition and the system, because we must hope that, as Mr. Kierkegaard would say, that the kids have not become rational beings, that they keep expecting the impossible and still have their divine imagination, which is in its most beautiful order here, because this fairy tale is told for kids. But what about this old tinderbox, and what about this blue checkered scarf? Yes, what about it? And what about this snake in the Garden of Eden being truly tempting that Kierkegaard talks about in his work, The Concept of Anxiety? The rationality makes sense, and you have now been limited. The kid is yet free, and therefore is flying, swerving, indefinite. Mr. Kierkegaard makes a critique on Hans Christian Andersen, which he answers himself. He probably had many inspirations, two of those breathing, Socrates and Christ, and perhaps, definitely, a third one as well, Hans Christian Andersen.